All right. So there's some comments I want to read to you guys from the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection Steam forum of people who aren't super happy about the price. Check it out. So there's a few to go through here, right? Hype Seal says the price is April Fool's. I laughed. That was so funny. I expect the price to be like $20 at max for a game with ROM and emulator. Then I go to store page and I see the price around $65 in my poor region. In my region, it's, what was it, 66 on discount at the moment. The price is even bigger than modern MK games. That's a pretty good joke, devs. I really laughed. However, I'm a bit confused as to it's not 1st of April, right? Now, obviously, like, so there's obviously a lot more going into it. It's not just the fact that they're going to be emulated ROMs. We have interviews in there and all sorts of stuff, right? That are going to add to the value of the product. However, you know, when you compare it to, like, what were the launch prices for the Capcom fighting collections, right? You know, like, and looking at that, we had, what was it, crossplay out of the gate? Was it, is it no, they don't have crossplay on those ones, do they? I don't think they do. They had things like lobbies and stuff like that. So now that we've had a few emulation type compilations come out, I think some people after a while are starting to go, okay, you know, what's going to be in there that's, you know, going to matter. I mean, I've already paid for 3 copies, so I've got my Steam one already ready to go. I've got the collector's and deluxe edition already sorted out. So it's just a matter of, you know, like I'm just waiting for the countdown. But there are some people out there who are, you know, obviously going to question it because they do see it as just, well, these are just emulated games. And if they don't care for the interviews and stuff like that, then all that's left is the games. Are they going to be, like, you know, happy with it? This person says I would gladly buy MK9, but they removed it from Steam. Because if MK9 was around, then no one would buy those arcade collection MK1. I don't agree with that. I think 100% people would still buy the old games. I am, because they're the old games. MK9 was a great entry, especially after the 3D era. But ultimately, you know, I'm a massive fan of the 2D era, and therefore I definitely want, you know, I definitely want those, you know, available to have in a sort of a official capacity. We've been able to emulate them for decades, but to actually have it in official capacity is, I think, is very important. Over here, we've got this one, overpriced, see you on sale. Not going to lie, I am a fan since I had 3 years old in 1998. I own all the titles on Steam, but I'll buy this at minus 50 or like 50% off or more. One more fact, it's dead on arrival, right? And I know what he's talking about there. He's talking about the fact that there's no crossplay, right? I know they're going to be working on it post-launch, but a lot of people don't have the patience, and that's fine too. You got to remember, if we take ourselves out of the equation of being fans, we're also customers. And as a customer, no matter how much you like something, try and be a little bit objective and go, well, you know, like, yes, if I was looking forward to playing these games online and I can't, that's an issue for me. And I don't want to have to go buy either another console and the game to play with my friends, or buy another version on my not so preferred platform just so I can play with my friends who are all on, say, PS5 or whatever, and then have to, you know, finally get, you know, play it on Steam, you know, when, like, eventually when crossplay comes in. Now, if you're playing these games primarily offline, then it's not going to be an issue, like, at all. Like, that's not going to be an issue whatsoever, right? Really sounds way too expensive. A moment, if I must say. You claim to be a fan since the age of 3, yet your words not speak not of reverence, but of disdain. I'm not reading that shit. Right, anyway. $10 more than enough for old games that wouldn't get supported more than 6 months. Well, it depends. Digital Eclipse has been pretty good with their Atari 50th anniversary collection, pumping out, I think they're up to, what, 3 DLC packs, I think, now, or a third one coming. So there's definitely going to, I have a good feeling that there's probably going to be post-game support. Obviously, a lot of us hoping that something like MK Gold gets in there. Any of the sort of not as well-known versions of Mortal Kombat get added in there in time to keep this alive and fresh, so that way people will be, you know, excited to, you know, to keep playing it in the future or look forward to it. Over here on this one, $50 for the first series of games without any changes in the graphics and gameplay with extremely bad quality. even if it's even in its time, and most importantly, what is going to be a superior game, Special Forces Mythology Sub-Zero, question marks, if even if all the games up to Armageddon are in the same collection, it's still not worth buying without a remaster or a remake. So I've seen this sort of like talk before. It's like, well, why aren't we getting remasters or whatever in there? And it's like, well, that's not the point of this collection. This collection is giving you the games as they were. Now, granted, in saying that though, games like like PS1 MK Trilogy are being modified to make the loading a lot easier. Originally, I was all for having the PC version, which would have been at that time the far superior version. But we're getting the PS1 version with basically no load time, and there's a whole bunch of extra stuff on the options, which I think will end up being good to cutting down time in between matches and things like that when we're playing online, like no buy-in screens, stuff like that. Over here, €44, make it €30, damn it. Why so much for FlightK 2.0 ports? Are they crazy? No, just greedy. I don't think they're greedy. If you look at the various Capcom collections, they are similarly priced, so that's why they are getting away with this price. I would pay for it through considering how many games and how much content we are getting in this collection. We are getting a lot. It's also one of the few collections, too, when it comes to Mortal Kombat, where we're actually getting home versions. If we look at the Capcom collections, what have they been thus far? They have all been arcade games. Every single one. Right? This is the first time that we're actually getting, like, it appears anyway, it looks like we are. Because I know Digital Eclipse did the 30th anniversary for Street Fighter. They also did Samurai Showdown collection. But this is actually the first time we're actually getting home console versions as well as the arcade for Mortal Kombat, which is pretty good. Right? It's the first time it's ever happening. And it just really comes down to whether or not people they feel that the price justifies the content. Now, I'm excited to see all the interviews and all the, you know, the bits and pieces and checking out all the nooks and crannies in this collection. But after you do that, I'm probably not going to go back and watch them again. Right? Because I've already would have watched it once. So why would I watch it again? Right? Maybe a year's time, 2 years time, perhaps, sure. But you know somebody's going to upload that to YouTube, right? So, you know, and which is unfortunate, you know, because they obviously, you know, for the amount of work and effort they put into it, it is, I from what I understand, it's going to be quite lengthy and good. But it's a one and done, right? So once you watch it, you go, that's awesome, that's cool. And you probably won't watch it again unless you're like super diehard hardcore, right? At least not for a while. So what's left is the games. And if the games don't interest you, just like any game out there, then it's probably not going to be worth your time just yet. I always advocate for people like actually waiting for sales and stuff like that, because I think it's very important that people do find, you know, a level of okay, yeah, I'm willing to spend this amount of money in this transaction, you know, to have this exchange of goods, and I'm happy with that. That's why we have wish lists, because we're waiting for certain games that we don't want to pay full price for to go on sale. So I'm not going to condemn anyone for that. Like, that's the personal choice or whatever, right? Over here, it says, I'm not spending $45 on a ROM collection to a ROM collection developer who doesn't even know how to emulate Dreamcast games. No, I will spend $45 US to support the developer Digital Eclipse. So I'm pretty much like, as I've said, I've already bought 3 copies. So I'm pretty much like supporting them 3 times over. And there's a lot of us out there that are doing the same as well. And I really hope, you know, so far I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm really hoping that it will deliver on the day. Not having crossplay on day one could sour some people, as I've already explained. But that's only for the people who are wanting to play online. There's going to be probably a big contingent that are going to be playing this stuff offline. I'm pretty happy to play a lot of this stuff offline. But his comment about the emulation for Dreamcast, I know they mentioned that they were looking at either between N64 emulation or PS1. They went with PS1, naturally, because you could get more games in there, because there were more Mortal Kombat games on PS1 than N64. We got MK3, we got MK Trilogy, hell, we got Japanese MK2 if you wanted to go down that road. We got Special Forces, we got MK4, and then we got MK Mythology Sub-Zero. So there's a lot on PS1, and they've nailed that, from what I understand, that emulation. Now, it's just one Dreamcast game, which is why I think a lot of people are very upset. Now, it's not my favorite MK game, but from a collection standpoint, and I will be a little bit of a downer on this. I think it's a hell of a missed opportunity to not bookend the entire series with gold. It just seems stupid to not have it in there. Now, it could be in there, right? As some big secret, super surprise. You finish MK4 and suddenly you unlock gold, right? That'd be cool. But outside of that, you know, I think it's a hell of a missed opportunity, right? Hell of a missed opportunity. So, it also has interviews and concept art. Yeah, and that's fine. But so do other collections as well, right? They do have other collections too. And then, of course, this person's here listing some collections out there. I own all of these. They're all great. They're all really good, including this one. This is a great one. This is by Digital Eclipse as well, right? So, and they've got, like, you know, obviously MK WaveNet. Like, yeah, I'm sure, like, I know some people are, like getting super excited about WaveNet, but I honestly didn't know it existed until they announced it. Like, I had no idea, right? So, anyway, this June says MK1 to 4 are $2.98 bundled on Good Old Games Galaxy right now. For those looking to save money, now's your chance. Edit, isn't it silly how stupid they think we are? Buy them on GOG before you give yourself sunk cost fallacy. $50 is too much for these games. So first and foremost, we're not getting the PC versions in this collection, right? In my anthology collection, right, and I have them working. If anyone's interested, check out the Discord. But they are somewhat sometimes difficult to run, right? And they're even more difficult to get a controller working. That's why I put guides on the channel. I've got guides on the channel that actually help people get a controller working for the DOS versions of MK1 to 3 and the Windows version of MK4. In the end, for me personally, I think it's just easier just to set up the keys for the keyboard and just play that way, right? Because you're not going to play them a whole bunch, right? We're getting arcade versions in this collection. We're not getting the PC ports, and a couple of them are a bit dinky as well, right? Then we're getting all the home ports, well, not all the home ports, but the significant ones from the 8-bit, 16-bit era, including the 32X version of MK2, right? So, and then, of course, with the PS1, we get, obviously, Trilogy, Special Forces, and Sub-Zero. So, you know, like, to think that somehow going and buying this collection is suddenly going to negate the rest of that content is just silly, right? Now, if you are on PC, right, most of us probably know, especially if we're in the know, about emulation, right? Which is why some of these people have brought up the fact, well, why are we going out and spending all this money on emulated stuff, right? And it's because it's in a official capacity. We're getting this in an official capacity, you know, within a framework of you know, the way that the menus are designed, the way that we'll be able to interact with the online. All of that is going to be very unique to this product with those games inside of it, right? So we're not just buying just the ROM and the emulator. We're buying a whole package here. So Azuna Drop says $45 and no PS2 era games. This is a joke, right? No, because if you go watch my interview with Stephen Frost, all the way back when it was first announced, I managed to get an interview with him. It was stated very clearly, and I knew it too. Most of us old heads realized that they were doing this legacy collection first. They're telling a story, and by telling a story, it's not just the interviews and stuff. Take that out. You're telling a story with the games that were made available. What was made available then, you know, that really sort of shaped a lot of us falling in love with MK and being able to play it at home in different versions and stuff like that. That's part of the story, right? And you've got to, if you're trying to then emulate things like PS2 and stuff like that, then you've got to spend more resources, more time, and we wouldn't be getting the collection next month. It'd probably be next year, right? Now, in saying that though, and I've also talked about this, we could be getting, like down the track, possible DLC packs. That'd be great. As you know, it's just as a personal interest of mine. I think that'd be really awesome to get, just like they do with the Atari collection. But we have to see how this one first, you know, how it goes first to see. So, Dan Emmerich said they'll make it its own collection later if this does well. First, they want to showcase the earliest games, but we already have a collection of the classic games. Sadly, they delisted it. But this was only the arcade ones, and they were the most woeful, like absolutely horrific editions that they ever made. All right, you asked Total MK about how much they've absolutely butchered the music in there. Some stuff wouldn't even play, or the quality was bad. Go over Total MK, ask him about it. He'll tell you all about it. It was just the worst collection they'd ever made, you know, putting them all in there. In fact, I would argue that you'd be better off going and playing them on the Midway Arcade Classics or any of the bonus discs that came in the 3D era, where you could access things like Ultimate MK3. I think you had MK2 on Shaolin Monks. And was it, I can't remember, there was another one. I think, was it only the two that were available? I think it might have been, actually. Maybe. Anyway, yeah, but the MK Arcade Collection was awful, right? And we're not just getting those arcade games, right? We're getting all the home, at least all the significant home versions as well, right? So I understand, and I'm not shitting on these people either. I'm just trying to sort of bring some common sense thought to this, because like, you're not going to be able to, like, you can't go buy the GOG versions, which are the actual DOS versions. They're not the arcade versions. They're not the Sega Mega Drive or the Super Nintendo versions. They're just PC versions. You can't just buy those 4 games and think, oh yeah, I'm good now, right? It doesn't work like that, because those in themselves are ports. They're not arcade perfect either, right? They got problems. They got issues as well, right? So and look, I'm obviously like, you know, pro MK, especially pro classic MK here. So this is why I'm very excited about, you know, this collection coming out. But I also understand why some people are going, look, you know, this isn't for me just yet. It isn't for me at all. And maybe they just want to wait and see too about the support after the game. How long after the game launches will we get crossplay? I'm hoping they're kind of working on it now, to be perfectly honest, because then you don't want to leave it too long. There are so many games out there to play, right? So many games, so much fun to be had. And if you want to keep people locked in on your product as best you can, you got to give the people what they want and what's the going rate and thing at the moment, and that is crossplay. For a fighting game not to have crossplay on launch, I don't think it'll hurt it, but I think some people will be getting on the Steam forums and going, I can't play with my mates on PS5 or Xbox or Nintendo. What's going on, right? Now, they have confirmed that, yes, within the framework of your platform, meaning that if you're on Switch 1 or Switch 2, you can play together. If you're on PS4 or PS5, you can play together. If you're on Xbox, any of the Xboxes, you can play together. Now, the interesting thing is, though, because Xbox also coincides with PC, I'm wondering if there's going to be crossplay with that. Probably not. It's probably just going to be between Steam and the Epic Game Store, and I don't know if there's any other digital storefronts that are going to be getting it to actually, you know, play, you know. But ultimately, like, it's going to be very interesting. I think, like I explained the other day, I've been really trying to tap into what made MK great for me. And I've also been sort of really trying to, like, you know, find the joy in those games again. Because I don't want to just get online and just play all the time, right? That's not why I fell in love with Mortal Kombat. And some people like playing online all the time. And that's great. It really is. But I got nothing to prove. I don't care. Right? I'll play people when I do stream. You know, stuff like that. But, you know, I just want to try and tap back into what made MK great for me. And I think everyone should. And then we just see how it goes. If it's successful, we'll start to hear about sales numbers. We'll see it in the reviews as well. Steam reviews can be very, very good or very bad in terms of like, just like brutal, right? And so we'll start to see with the reviews. Obviously, I'll do a review of this, and I'll do it at length. It'll be a massive video where I'll go through every nook and cranny, loading up every game, covering every game, you know, giving it a good go, trying to get some online matches with all the games that have it to see if I can actually showcase what it looks like. I hope to make it a very comprehensive review. So that way people will be very much informed on within the first week where we're at, right? Warts and all. I don't edit shit out. I just leave it in. If there's crashes, if there's issues like that, you're going to see it. Because I think, again, despite me being a massive Mortal Kombat fan, I am a customer. And if the thing is not working properly or not doing its job, then as a customer, we have that right to be able to call it out. And by calling it out, you get stuff fixed. So, but anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think. Catch you next time.